INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu speaks at Chatham House, says no going back on 2023 polls. Constitution amendment, Buhari's CBN loan orders top agenda as National Assembly resumes plenary. 25 million Nigerians risk hunger in 2023, UNICEF warns. Also tonight on Politics HQ, Al-Shabaab launches deadly attack on Somali military base. London court allows appeal over UK's Rwanda migrant plan. Welcome to Politics HQ. I'm Sulaiman Aledeh. Tonight, my guest is Kassim Afegbua. He's the media practitioner and Tinubu supporter. He'll be speaking with us on a wide range of trending issues on the 2023 elections and more. Stay with us. The 2023 elections are barely a month away and Nigerians are in the mood. Political parties have been talking tough. The electoral umpire INEC is also spreading the message of his readiness around the country and even outside. Well, on Monday, videos of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party speaking to Nigerians and the global community at Chatham House in the United Kingdom trended. Nigerians have been talking about his performance compared with the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu. As such debates enough proof of capacity. Well, now, the PDP is also talking tough about the chances of its presidential candidate and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Also in the polity, there are questions surrounding the endorsement of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Critics say he's not the man to hold any man's hand in the air, as he wanted a third-term bid when he was president against the Constitution. Obasanjo has denied this, but what's the truth? You hear all of that on Politics HQ today. Well, young Nigerians have expressed their readiness to exercise their franchise, but the men they will vote for still have a cloud hovering over their heads. Now, these and more are issues in the polity we will be unpacking pretty much later. So join us.
Healing.
Kassim Afegbua, a media practitioner and a staunch supporter of Bola Tinubu, as he would always want to be called and addressed, joins me live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Good to see you, Kassim, and thanks for your time as always. Perhaps let's start talking about some of the key things trending, and the most recent that we can actually pick out of the plate is a man who's going against the man you're supporting, Peter Obi. We saw him, speaking to Nigerians there. But whether you like it or not, Peter Obi seemed to be making some big popularity. What does this mean to the chances of your favorite candidate, Bola Tinubu?
Well, thank you very much, Sulaiman, and Happy New Year, for giving me the opportunity to speak once again on this issue. You see, I have told you repeatedly that I wouldn't want to even join issues with Peter Obi or his supporters. He has a right to contest election. He's going about the way he feels. But my own candidate, Bola Tinubu, has since left Chatham House. He's on the trenches, campaigning for elections, wooing voters, asking them to support him all over the place. So if this is Peter Obi's time to go to Chatham, good for him. I'm not going to use such platform to determine the capacity or otherwise of the candidates vying for elections in Nigeria, where they are looking for president of the country. Peter Obi has a right to go to Chatham House to ventilate his opinions and viewpoints. But essentially, just today, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu was in Kwara campaigning and asking for votes. So the voters are actually here. We have since moved, taking Chatham House past us. It's already a foregone issue. We are now facing the rigors of campaign.
You know, while we talk about the rigors of campaigns, one of the traditions we've seen since the coming of this democracy is what they call endorsement, especially from past leaders. As we've seen, former President Obasanjo has also endorsed the man you say you really wouldn't want to speak about, well, Peter Obi. So perhaps that is also some kind of gain to his aspiration.
Well, former President Obasanjo has a right under the Constitution to support and endorse any candidate of his choice. I wouldn't expect him to support a Tinubu because when he was president, he seized the Lagos allocation. For several years, it took the resilience of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to challenge that seizure of the Lagos state allocation up to the Supreme Court. Even when the Supreme Court gave verdict against the federal government under Obasanjo, it was still difficult for Lagos state to be paid its statutory allocation as provided for in the Constitution. So Obasanjo, for me, would want to see himself as primus inter pares, among the Yoruba ethnic stock in Nigeria. He wants to be seen as the number one in everything he does. So he wouldn't want a Tinubu who fought for the democracy that Obasanjo enjoyed, who fought Abacha to a standstill for us to get democracy. He wouldn't want to do that. So he has the right to support Peter Obi. But how much impact such a support will mean to anyone is left to be seen at the elections. Elections are just about 38 days from now. So we are hoping that by February 25th, Nigerians will file out to vote. And I'm sure with the kind of resilience, kind of vigor, strength, energy that Tinubu is putting into this campaign, he has covered about 10 states within the last 9 days. I think Nigerians will come out to endorse him.
And, well, it's just not President Obasanjo's, support for Peter Obi. There seemed to be some other, move against the aspiration of Bola Tinubu. Just recently, Pastor Tunde Bakare also spoke about your candidate, plus other wide range of issues where he specifically said the Emilokon kind of politicians, perhaps maybe referring to your candidate, shouldn't be given any chance of becoming president.
I think Pastor Tunde Bakare is just trying to be clever by half. Because if I remember vividly his political trajectory, he told us sometimes last year that he will be the 16th president of Nigeria. That is also an Emilokon mentality, if he wants to put it that way. He said he has been decreed to be the 16th president, and that he was going to contest. In fact, if his prophecy and his spirituality could not tell him that it was not his time, why would I want to take him serious about what he has just said about Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He went, he bought form for 100 million, he participated, and he got beaten to his game. The point is that I don't want to dwell too much on those who dwell so much on contradiction. Pastor Tunde Bakare is very brilliant. I want to believe that he has his right to his opinion, but he should not use his opinion as a basis to measure, the acceptance or otherwise of the candidate of the APC. So, by and large, I am of the opinion that men of God should dwell more on teaching morals, attitudinal change, attitudinal orientation, enhance our spirituality, help to convert, evil minds so that they become good citizens of the country, rather than dwelling so much in politics where their personality, when psychoanalyzed, can be brought, to ridicule. So for me, I'm not losing sleep over that, because I've seen if I trace Tunde Bakare's trajectory, is a bundle of contradiction. I'm sorry to say, because the time was where he criticized Babangida so much, ran him on the pages of the newspaper. You would think that he would not want to have anything to do with IBB. But when he was contesting as running mate to Buhari in 2011, he went to Mina. I was there. He came to seek me, the same person he castigated. He came to seek his endorsement. So those kind of characters, please. I don't want to dwell too much on that. But I think Nigerians know what is better for them. I'm a supporter of Tinubu. I've seen his antecedents. I've seen his track record. I've seen his vision for Lagos. I've seen what he was able.
Well, I hope we're not experiencing any glitch there, Kassim. I hope you're still there. If you're still there, if you can hear me, Kassim, quickly here. You know, let's, yes, we have a plethora of issues, you know, and we'll go back and forth looking at these issues. And again, sometimes it will also come straight at your candidate. But this time, your party had a World Press Conference yesterday, and it all hovers around a certain Michael Achimogwu. And many are saying, why would your party be so bothered? Because first, there were also allegations, you know, alleged drug dealings, you know, pointed at your candidate. So why would, it amounts like a pot calling the kettle black.
Sulaiman, please put it on record. I am not a member of the APC.
I said that clearly. So you already said you're a supporter of Tinubu. I never said you're a member of the APC.
I'm only sympathetic towards the aspiration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's one. Secondly, you see, it is very convenient for lazy minds to point accusing fingers when they are being called to question on issues that have to do with character, honor, and integrity. The point is, a Mike Achimogwu has turned out very, very fecund documentation, both voice messages, emails, and voice leak, such that it has exposed the underbelly, the rotten underbelly of the Atiku candidature and the Atiku persona. And by now, one will expect that the statutory agencies that are vested with the responsibility of investigating further these very weighty allegations are still sitting quiet. And yet, you want Nigerians to turn out leaders who will take us to El Dorado. And you see Atiku still coming out, gallivanting and saying that, yes, he has the answer to our problems. Meanwhile, when he presided as a vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo, the revelations of Mike Achimogwu now have just exposed all the transactional, nomenclature, all the transactional indulgences of a vice president, setting up special purpose vehicle. I call it special purpose corruption that was being put in place to just shortchange the people. So you may, instead of them to interrogate the issues, they are parrying it and looking at the APC candidate and saying that no, APC is this, APC is that. The candidate is this, that. Are those the issues? They should respond. If they have any response to give, they should first respond to the allegations against them with those copious videos that have been released to the media, so that Nigerians begin to interrogate the persona, the integrity, the honor, and the morality of an Atiku contesting the 2023 election. That's why the APC is giving it 72 hours. EFCC, ICPC, NFIU, and even the DSS, they should move into this and investigate. If you want to build a sane society, you must take up some of these issues holistically, without looking at the face of the person involved, or without looking at whose source is God. But in Nigeria, we like to paper, all manners of bestialities, inanities. We want to sweep them under the carpet, and the man will come out tomorrow, if by accident becomes president. How would such a person want to fight corruption? So it's quite unfortunate. All the ones they are calling Tinubu this, Tinubu that, they are just begging the question. They are running away from the reality. The reality is that Mike Achimogwu has challenged them Did he speak to his children, to his children? Yes. Was there a leak as to what SPV means? Yes. Are there allegations of fleets, health, and financial malfeasance? Yes. Why would the relevant agencies not take up this challenge?
You know, now let's go back to some of the key things you raised. You wrote specifically, let me give you a quote there. You said, in 1999, I was a witness to some of the intrigues that threw up Obasanjo and Atiku as president and vice president. And you said quite a lot in that piece, which you said is a series which you're turning out. Perhaps Nigerians who were not in the know as to what had transpired in 1999, which you say you were more or less an eyewitness who witnessed some of these happenings at the start of our democracy. Tell us what you know about the coming together of President Obasanjo and Atiku, whom the former president had at a point in time in his book also accused Atiku of being corrupt.
If you read my article very well, you will see that the introduction, the beginning of that article talks about the testimonial, the damning testimonial of Olusegun Obasanjo against his own vice president for 8 years. And of course, the reason for the military oligarchs, let me put it that way, for choosing Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in 1999 as a running mate, even though he had won election as a governor-elect in Adamawa State, was because they felt that he's a man who lost money, and he has the tendency of living below the conditionalities of etiquette, good conduct in terms of handling finances. So they needed somebody who will soil his hands. And part of that prediction by the military apparatchik is what you have seen in this audio link, special purpose vehicle, which I consider as special purpose corruption. You see, the point is, leaders must learn to live above board. There are probes that were carried out. One of it is the PTDL, Petroleum Trust Development Fund, PTDL, which was under the vice president at that time. And there's a report that is lying there in the EFCC. They ought to have taken Atiku to court to prosecute him on the basis of mismanagement of certain funds of the PTDL. But nobody is going to talk of this. The moment they start calling your name, the moment we say it, they start sending us threat messages, they start calling us with hidden numbers and threatening us. You know, how do you build a country where everyone has to live on that threat? How? How do you build a country?
Let me get something straight. Are you saying people are being threatened?
Of course, we get threat calls every now and then. I am one of them. I'm not new to it. I'm used to it, but it doesn't bother me. This is my country. I don't have any other country I will call my own. I'm an incredible optimist in the capacity and ability of this country to get it right someday. But we'll continue to talk. We'll continue to raise alarm. We'll continue to interrogate issues. We'll continue to hold our leaders accountable, so that in the final analysis they will know that some of us didn't keep quiet when we saw certain things being done wrongly. Because Nigeria is generally described as an awkwardly overgrown adult that is struggling to walk straight. And so for us to get us working and all of that, you need to interrogate leaders, you need to interrogate processes, not just about the outcome of processes, but even the process leading to that outcome. It has to be properly interrogated. So I am saying that in 1999, I was a staff of the PDP. I was part of the committee for the Just Convention, and I saw a lot of things that play on. But I'm writing a book on some of those issues. I'm going to also unveil quite a number of those intrigues, that factorized the politics of 1999 and how Atiku came on board. Even in 2003, when Obasanjo said he was waiting on God and all of that, I'm going to say all of that because we are close to power. We are close to some of these persons. We see some of these things being done. But for God's sake, anything that has to do with corruption, it has to be interrogated. So what Mike Achimogbu is doing, just like he said, that he's been threatened, he doesn't care, even if he dies in the process. He has said something so critical. Why are we not interrogating that? People are almost maintaining some kind of conspiratorial silence. We should not be. Under a democracy, you must interrogate those who are putting themselves forward. I don't have problem with them saying they want to interrogate Bola Tinubu. No, but they should answer to their own question. The questions staring them in the face, they should answer to them. They should respond to them. They should not parry it by saying, Bola Tinubu did this, Bola Tinubu do that. No, if you are taking, the APC that I know yesterday has submitted a petition to the FCC and duly submitted. And so we are waiting to see whether the FCC will have the balls to take action on this, because this is very serious. We're talking about the resources of you and I. We're talking about our collective patrimony. We're talking about money that should be used for other things. People be keeping them in certain SPV accounts and using them for their own ulterior motives. This will not augur well for a democracy. It shouldn't be condoned by any stretch of imagination.
Well, let's take a moment. When we come back, we dig in deep to talk more about the fight against corruption, as you have alleged, and specifically also see about that letter which you have written about Nigeria's former president and the ghost of third term. That's when we come back.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Well, if you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching Politics HQ here on News Central Television, broadcasting live to 54 African countries and beyond. And we're talking about Nigeria's election this year. And my guest is Kassim Afegbua, media practitioner at Tinubu Shatima campaign organization, and of course, I meant to say media practitioner and a supporter of the Tinubu aspiration. Now, quickly here, let's go to some of the key things you also raised. You had also written not too long ago about what you term President Obasanjo's third term bid, and that came about after the president reiterated for the 18th time that he never aspired for an extended term in office.
Tell lies. What morals are they passing across to the younger generation? Obasanjo, by every indication, is an elder statesman, having been president in 1976, 79, 1999, 2007. He is the longest serving president we've had. If my reading is right. Well, the point is, he should not tell us that he didn't aspire for third term. He should give a reason to rationalize why the temptation for third term became so manifest at that period. That way, we will take him serious. But to tell us such a blatant lie is to miss the point altogether. I have said in my statement that President Obasanjo invited my boss, IBB, Abdulsalami Ali Gusso, for a meeting in the villa where he told them categorically that he wants an extension of time, whether 6 months, whether 12 months, for him to complete certain things. And the response of IBB was stated in that press statement, that said, well, it is true that we brought you on board, we brought you, we supported you, but we, as much as we try to, support your government, you've since made new friends, and because you have made new friends, we expect that those new friends will make you, or will give you the third term. The meeting didn't last more than 10, 15 minutes. He said, oh, is that the position of the group? They call them G4. You media give them G4. Is that the position? He said, yes, because you have made new friends, we expect the new friends to make you. He angrily left and even challenged IBB, accused IBB of supporting the aspiration of Buhari in AMPP in the 2007 election. Why are you supporting him? and all that. I will say, why would I support him? It's not good for us to have a one-party democracy. Let's have multiple parties of two, three dominant, strong ones, so that people may have opportunity of choice. And after that, he had to prevail. I didn't want to contest 2007 election, but because of the response he got, the feedback they gave to Obasanjo based on his request, Obasanjo went like a bull in a china shop. He was angry. He was living with anger, and so we couldn't move forward in that our quest. IBB had to write a popular letter, which was sent to the president. But before we got it to him, we leaked it to the media so that they won't twist the logic of that letter and leak it to the media. So we are part and parcel of the power process. We see a lot of things in the...
So Kassim, let me get something here, because you say IBB spoke on behalf of the others, and he specifically spoke saying that, please, well, we won't be a part of third term. You can go ahead with your new friends. Is it safe to say there and there, perhaps that was why IBB, who intended at that point in time to go into politics, backtracked?
Yeah, that was why IBB declined contesting, because by virtue of the arrangement, Obasanjo was to run 1/3. Babangida was to run another 1/3, so that they can properly checkmate the military involvement in politics and clear the way for civilian democracy. But Obasanjo did 1 term. He told Nigeria that he was waiting on God to declare his aspiration. At that point, he was still begging the G4, so to speak, that they should allow him a 2nd term, which they allowed him. Getting to the 2nd term now, he came up with the idea of a 3rd term again. Haba. They said, no, this is against the Constitution. This is against the enabling acts in the country, so they won't be part of that. So Obasanjo grew angry, he got living with anger, and before you say Jack Robinson, he started doing manners of things, stopped Odili's campaign and all of that. Then he brought in.
Yes, I think now you mentioned the former Rivers State Governor Peter Odili. He was touted to be a leading, candidate for the party at that point in time, but the former president Obasanjo pulled his weight behind Yar'Adua.
Yes, he brought in Umar Yar'Adua, thinking that Umar Yar'Adua, because they say he was terminally ill, that he was going to pass away before the.
When you say thinking, is it safe to say there was some kind of knowledge about his ill health before he was?
Nigerians knew. The president has information. Sulaiman, don't be kidding here. The president has information and all that. It was public knowledge that Umar Yar'Adua was ill, but not to the point that he won't be able to contest the election. Unknown to him also, Umar Yar'Adua was to be our Director General in the campaign if Abibu was to contest, because they maintain a very strong family relationship. Obasanjo didn't know that. So when Umar came on board, what Obasanjo wanted to achieve, he couldn't achieve. Go back to the video of the handing over of Obasanjo to Umar Yar'Adua. Look at the eyes that the president was using to look at Umar Yar'Adua. See this man, so he didn't die. These are the kind of things you see in power game. In power game, power plot, subplot, counterplot, all manners of plot woven together. So the tendency is for people to, to try their luck on some of these, on some permutations, some scenarios. But if they didn't work, they should also understand. IBB, as a gentleman, wrote a letter formally telling the president that he was backing out from contesting the election. But by the time we were submitting it, we were also leaking it to the media, so that the content of that letter will not be misrepresented, when it gets to the presidency. And that was what we did.
And going forward, because now we've gone back in time and it looks as if the wheel is being reinvented. At what point in time can Nigeria actually say, well, this is ours, let us speak and get ours, in positions of authority? Perhaps, what do you make of the 2023 election? What could be the determining factor or factors that will spring a leader as the president or governor?
You see, Sulaiman, people are campaigning for elections now.
Yes.
They are going around the country, they are going to states, some are going to other parts of senatorial districts and all of that. Any election requires that the candidates conscientize, mobilize the electorates, sell manifesto, tell them what you intend to do so that it becomes a covenant between you and those electorates. All the candidates are doing that. But essentially, the APC candidate has a stronger grip of the polity by virtue of the kind of support he's enjoying from the APC governors. They are 21 in number. You can't take that for granted. By virtue of the fact that is a popular name, is a known name in Nigeria. Bola Tinubu is a known name. By virtue of the fact that he also helped to fight this democracy that all of us are enjoying. He was part and parcel, he was the front line of those who fought for this democracy to return the military back to the barracks. And he also has, the capacity to rally the country, to build an elite consensus that is seriously required to be able to build national cohesion, deepen national conversation, so that any policy agenda that he puts forward, if he becomes president by the special grace of God, people will be able to buy into it. We need dialogue. We need constructive engagement. We need collective bargaining. We need the buy-in of the electorate, of the ordinary masses, both those who are voting and those who are not voting. We need to carry people along so that they will have an idea of what you intend to do, how you intend to do, and what results you are expecting in that process.
But again, sorry to butt in here, sorry to cut you there, but again, the worry here is, as in the past, there seemed to also be vested interests, a cabal, perhaps with no name at the moment, who still may, determine who becomes our leader, if not the people.
No, the people are the ones who determine. What the other leaders often do is to help them to deepen their conversation, is to help them to deepen the outreach, to talk to persons, for them to see reasons why A must be supported instead of B, or why A must be supported instead of C. So you see all the candidates going to these leaders. Tinubu has gone to Obasanjo, has gone to Absalami, has gone to Abibi, has gone to Tiwa Dajimo, has gone to all of these leaders, because these leaders have been around for quite a time. And they have been around for quite some time, and so for that reason, they have continue to reach to those people and ensure that you get their buy-in. So it's not that they impose people on us. They don't impose, but they support the candidates out there and using their network, using their contacts to get a majority to support them at the elections. Like IBB has a rich network in the country, across the country, southwest, southeast, south, northeast, northwest, north central. You can't take his support for granted. Obasanjo has his own clientele, he has his own reach, home and abroad, all of these persons. So a candidate will naturally reach out to them. But it doesn't mean that when anybody they endorse win. Obasanjo endorsed somebody in 2019. Did the person win? The person didn't win. Nigerians spoke. He endorsed somebody else in 2015. Did the person win? He didn't. So the point is, it is their legitimate right to say they are supporting XYZ. But whether the XYZ will say true during the election is another kettle of fish. So you need to campaign, you need to go around. If the people have been taken for granted, you won't see Tinubu campaigning all over the country. He's going around the states back to back, not resting. Yet they will tell you the man is weak, the man is sick, the man is this. The man has covered 10 states within the last 9 days. And yet you say such a man is not strong enough to preside over the country. I call that kind of reasoning as arrant nonsense.
Well, with happenings just in the past days, it would appear that the big conversation that Nigerians should be asking the people should first hover around corruption.
Yes, corruption is, see, Sulaiman, I tell people that we have not started the fight against corruption. We have not started. What we are doing is just mere sloganeering. Sloganeering that does not address the critical issue of anti-corruption crusade as it is known all over the world. You see, it is one thing for you to be mouthing it, that you want to fight corruption. It's another thing for us to see your conduct falling in line with the expected etiquette and conditionalities that make a typical anti-corruption crusade to work. I have a knowledge, at least certificated knowledge, on anti-corruption studies in the US. And I've seen how they have been doing their own, even the laws that have been set in place. The moment you lobby to become EFCC chairman, you are not fighting corruption. The moment you lobby to become ICPC chairman, you are not fighting corruption. The moment you lobby senators who write letters, House of regular letters to ICPC, EFCC to begin to put people there, their staff, for God's sake, is that corruption? A process of anti-corruption must be seen to be above board at all times. And they must be open and transparent. If I ask you now, Sulaiman, what is the budget of EFCC in the last 2022? You won't be able to tell me. How much of that budget was implemented? You won't be able to tell me. Because all of these are shrouded in secrecy. That is not anti-corruption body. That's not an anti-corruption crusade. An anti-corruption body live by example, publish audited statement, look at the cost effectiveness of finances that are expended on anti-corruption cases, see whether it is worthy to you to spend 10 million naira to chase 2 million naira, or whether it is worthy for you to spend 20 million naira to chase 2 billion naira. Those are the issues. But over here, you see people lobbying, they want to be, they will lobby this, they will lobby that, and all that. So it brings to question the problem of anti-corruption as in African countries, that our sense of communalism as Africans, cousin, brother, sister, nephew, this, that, it's difficult for us to look somebody in the face and say, I want to prosecute you, even when the person is
But again, Kassim, it also leaves the EFCC.
That is the reason why you see everybody is keeping quiet on Mike Achimugu's allegations.
I'll come back to Mike Achimugu before we leave. But again, it brings to the fore the difficult position the EFCC is at the moment, especially in an election year. For an anti-corruption agency, perhaps that's not been too busy, it becomes almost impossible for them to move in against anyone who is running for an election, else it will be seen as if the government is using the EFCC to pursue its opposition. So perhaps, how can we get away from this? It might not be this election. How can we get the EFCC to be truly independent so that kind of argument doesn't come should the people actually want to weigh in on any politician in an election year?
Sulaiman, it simply means that we are not ready for business. It simply means that the El Dorado we are thinking of is still far-flung. When I petitioned Uche Secondus of the PDP and other members of the DCA to the EFCC, they started the investigation. Ask me, where did that investigation end? So, you see, the moment you are beginning to consider certain laws for the haves and certain laws for the have-nots, then you will be dragging down, the aspiration of each and every one of us in the country to try to achieve greatness. Because in Nigeria, there are two sets of laws. The laws for the super rich and the laws for the super poor. You jail people for stealing 10,000 naira. You jail them for 1 year, 8 months. But the people who steal 100 billion, you grant them bail, they sit in their home, in the comfort of their home, and they are coming to attend your investigation. Who does that? And you tell me EFCC is this, EFCC is that. EFCC may have been doing a little bit of what would I call it? Papering, just painting the surface. But in critical anti-corruption crusade that I was taught, my brother, I will tell you that EFCC has not started. They are just scratching the surface. An anti-corruption crusade does not know the status of a man who is put before him. Go to London. If a prime minister can resign a position for simply misdirecting, the UK populace in terms of policy misdirection, how much more you will think about somebody who is being found, who is alleged to have stolen 170 billion and the person was granted pay, and you tell me you are fighting corruption. You have done plea bargain. You steal 5 billion, you bring 3 billion, 2 billion, you need to enjoy yourself for the rest of your life. Who does that? What is the meaning of plea bargain? Corruption upon corruption. So I keep telling people, the simple definition of corruption is monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. Once you have monopoly power, it will affect and impugn on your discretionary powers. And that is where lack of accountability comes in. So for me, if you make me an EFCC chairman, I'm sure at about 70–80% of the super rich who have helped themselves with public finances will run out of this country.
So for the purpose of this conversation, now let's say I've just made you the EFCC chairman and you've listened to Michael Achimugu. Shouldn't you invite him for further conversation?
I won't even hesitate. Wherever he is, whether it's in London, it's America, I will link up with all our sister agencies and make sure that I'm able to interrogate Mike Achimugu to get further details that he may not have put out there. Then once I'm able to establish a prima facie case based on his revelations, I will take up the issue with the citizen that is involved, Alhaji Atiku in this case. You see, you don't need to pretend when you want to build nations. Go and study Singaporean anti-corruption process, how their leaders was frying big fishes. You fry the big fishes first, so that the small fishes who are stealing little money, they will say, if so person can be fried, then we have to checkmate ourselves. There are no half measures to anti-corruption fights. We were able to retrieve 1 trillion out of the 6 trillion that was stolen. We were able to sell their houses. You even got houses, you want to auction them. Who does that, Sulaiman? Anti-corruption, you are either in it or you are not in it. But if you keep just making mouth and using lobby to get chairman, this one is fired, you bring another one, you can't even probe an anti-corruption agency that can't even probe president, that can't even look in the face of the president. Is that an anti-corruption agency? What are you talking about? Is it an instrument of the president against the people? Who says a president cannot be corrupt? So an anti-corruption agency must enjoy unfettered independence. Independence such that the law protects it. But even in Nigeria, just the mere body language of the president means some kind of law. You appoint an IG of police, he will not follow the constitution, he will be following the body language of the president. You appoint a sole administrator of custom, he will not follow the constitution, he will follow the body language of the president. So the president in Nigeria is next to God. His body language becomes law. His body language becomes the constitution. It's quite unfortunate. So we need to begin to interrogate the real issues of attitudinal orientation. If we must take our country back, if we must hold leaders accountable, we must begin to interrogate the issue. That's why if you appoint me to any government position, I will look you in the face, either as president, and I'll tell you the kind of things you don't want to hear. I did it in Edo State. I looked into the face of the governor and told him the kind of things you don't want to hear. But posterity has proven me right. That's the truth. I'm only answerable to my conscience. I'm not going to dance to your whims and caprices. It's better you don't appoint me than for you to think that you appoint me and I'll be doing eye service to you. No way.
You know, speaking of which, now you have just mentioned Edo State. Also, in your state, we saw a PDP chieftain, Dan Obi, specifically saying before the Nigerian people how the governor, Obaseki, collected about $300,000 from his deputy, Philip Shaibu. Till date, that conversation seemed to have actually been swept under the carpet. So it still comes back to the talk of fighting corruption.
Sulai, one will have expected that the governor would take him to court or send somebody to challenge him. But that is the truth of what happened. You see, when people are not sincere, when they are not honest, this is what you get. From day one, I told them in Edo, people have to be careful. And they say, I was doing anti-party when I didn't support Obaseki. But today I've been proven right. They all see me as a soothsayer who predicts what will happen in future. And I'm happy for that because it gives me some level of, relief in the heart of my own being. So if you want to, develop a nation, if you want leaders to be accountable, you must have the balls to interrogate them, look them eyeball to eyeball, and tell them the kind of things they don't want to hear. In Nigeria, there's too much of eye service. There's too much of over-sanctimoniousness. There's too much of, how will I call it, pandering to the sentiments of the leader. When you tell a leader something, they don't want to hear, they say, well, you are confronting the leader. No. It's better you tell him the truth so that when he takes a decision, he will know that he has interrogated and he has consulted with all shades of opinion before taking such a decision. I will always want to belong to a system where I can speak my mind, no matter how unpopular, but give me an opportunity to speak my mind. So Edo State is another kettle of fish. What is happening there, insecurity, everything, but reconcile that with the kind of money they voted for security vote every month. You will weep. It's quite unfortunate.
Now let's close on this. So what's your projection for 2023, specifically in the next few weeks that Nigerians will be going to the polls?
I am waiting for the election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For the reasons I have given, he has good track record, he has capacity to lead the country, he has capacity to build a lead consensus. He also has capacity to listen to the ordinary people, because if you look at the way and manner he presided over Lagos, and even the line of succession of governors that are coming from Lagos, you will give it to him that the man has the sagacity to stand his own.
And for INEC?
Yes, for INEC, they must live above board. The responsibility lies on their shoulder to make sure that Beavers works across the 176,000 polling units across the country. They cannot afford to toil with the destiny of this country, so that when the election is seen to be credible, the outcome would gladly be received and welcomed by all the participants. But where there are cases of manipulations and indecent conduct by INEC or in collusion with their ad hoc staff and all of that, the outcome will be subject to another litigations.
And the last one with the security, we understand that the IG has said they're ready to go into this election.
You won't expect the IG to tell you that they are not ready. But how much ready are they? You need to pay police their remuneration. Pay them as at when due. We still hear gossip of people pay money to get posting to certain states and all of that. Everything, everywhere, all gamut of government, corruption here, corruption there. As Nigerians, we must begin a deliberate and conscious process of taking leaders accountable, where we will look at them in the face and tell them the bitter truth. So the IG job is not, I don't envy the IG because he can talk. But if he doesn't put the right logistics on ground, you won't get manna from heaven.
Kassim Afegbua, I'd like to thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.